April, the city of Boston was rocked by a terrorist attack at the finish line of the Boston Marathon. Goaltender Matt Reese was in the crowd that day. His father-in-law was at the finish line waiting for Matt's wife to cross when he became a victim of the attack. Our Jessica Camerato sits down with Reese now to talk about that day and the aftermath.
Well, thank you for sitting down with me today. I want to go back to April with you. Marathon Monday started off just like any other day. You and your family watched your wife run the marathon out in the suburbs, and then you made your way to marathon sports in Boston. And then what happened from there?
Well, it was, not really thinking of anything that's going to happen, and all of a sudden, it sounded like a gigantic cannon goes off.
Over 20,000 runners took off from Hopkinton earlier on Monday, and not a single one could possibly imagine what was in store for them or anybody else, because in the blink of an eye, 2 explosions at the finish line have shaken the world.
And, it was kind of right back by where I was standing, not 2 minutes before that. And first thing that popped into my mind was, why are they signaling the end of the race when, there's still people running? And then, everybody started panicking and running around and screams and stuff, and then it all became real.
So at what point do you realize that your family could be involved in this?
Right when it happened. It was right back by where we were standing. So I knew, for the most part, that somebody got hurt.
And then you get to your in-laws. At that point, what do you see happening?
Well, at that point, I went back because there was, out of the 7 of us, there was 4 that was still back in that area. So, I checked in. There was 3 of them that were okay, and my father-in-law was on the ground. And so, just went to see what was wrong with him, and he had a lot of blood coming out of his leg. And at that point, my mother-in-law, she said, we need a tourniquet, and I took my belt off, and we wrapped it around as tight as we could on his leg, and took my jacket off and tried to just stop as much blood coming out as possible. And fortunately, it helped.
There are pictures of you from surveillance cameras literally taking things off to save your father-in-law's life. What kicked in that moment for you to know to do those things?
I think a lot of it is what I do day in, day out. It's taking situations and dealing with them. In soccer and goalkeeping, it's ball comes in and I have to deal with the situation, and that's what happened there. I got into it and found out that he had a massive hole in his leg, and just what's next. And so we had to stop the bleeding. So how do we do that? And then kind of process of elimination that way, and just go through it that way.
And then it wasn't a quick recovery. You guys went through weeks and months of operations. Tell me about what happened from there on out.
Well, the first 3 weeks were rough, and the doctors were amazing, but they also weren't very forthcoming with information. They didn't want to get our hopes up. So it was always worst case scenario, and we had a lot of surgeries just to stabilize him and then to put him back together again.
He had received a wound that went from the outside of his left leg through his left leg and embedded into his right leg. It was one wound, but with the force that it took for that to travel all the way through his body, it created quite damage in there.
Where does he go from here with his rehabilitation?
Well, they're back in California now. They got to get back to their house and get back to their way of life. It's a struggle for him every day. He's in a lot of pain and learning to walk again and dealing with all of that. But he's a trooper, and he's doing the best and making the best of it as he can.
How did you stay focused on soccer and family and balance everything while this is all weighing on you?
Well, I think soccer was a good distraction. It's whenever anything happens, it's good to get back to your routine and your normal way of life. And that's what they're doing now back in California. So for me to be able to get back in and around the guys and help the organization and do whatever I can was a welcome relief. But it was, it's always back there, and a lot of time away from soccer was spent with our family and taking care of everything and trying to take care of the kids too.
Do you consider yourself a hero in this situation?
I don't like to. I think I acted in a way that I hope most people would, and it's tough in those situations, and I think that's why playing soccer and what I do in my professional life helped me in that situation. So I'm glad and I'm proud of the way I reacted, and I'm happy with the outcome.
The marathon is about enduring and endurance, and to see what these people tried to do and how crudely they did it, and instead of creating hysteria and despair, they really created a lot of hope.
How do you think this has changed you as a person?
It just makes you realize how tenuous and how special life is, and how even though through the routines of everyday work and getting up and getting the kids off to school and getting them to bed and doing all that in a blink of an eye it can all change. And to really live and love life and to celebrate, especially the family and the people that you love the most when you get to see them, is to really put your arms around them and make sure that they know how much they need you.
So many people were affected by this terrible tragedy. If you could send a message to those who are still dealing with things months later, what would you want to say to them?
No, we do have a lot of friends that are still going through this, and we've become close with a lot of the other victims. And it's difficult and it's tough, but just to try and stay strong. It's very difficult to do, and it's very easy to get down on your lot in life, but just to stay strong and to keep fighting.